I'm sorry. Have we met?
I don't know.
It's been a while. Um,
It's
I'm
been a
Rosie.
while.
It's nice
That's
to meet
Rosie.
you.
She is rejoining us after a long and traumatic 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a lot. So obviously I lost my job last year, and then
You
in
don't have to
November.
explain all of this if you don't want to.
Oh no, I'm gonna explain. So I lost my job last year. I got made redundant. So then I was like trying to be a ceramicist, a podcaster. I was like looking after dogs, dog boarding, dog walking, house sitting, all of the lots. Then I started getting a part-time job in a pet shop because I was like, I need income. I was teaching pottery lessons. I was doing like absolutely everything I could to avoid having to get a proper job. Um, and then got served an eviction for my flat because they wanted to sell it. And
It's
so
actually because she's a really bad tenant and they found all the drugs.
don't say that. Imagine if, like, my prospective landlords in the future found this and then was like, no, she's been rejected
She's
because of the
lived with me for
drugs.
2 years, I know.
There's so many drugs. Um, and so
Grown
I was,
mess.
yeah, I was evicted. So then we had 3 months to try and find a new place. And so now I live on a golf course.
Hello and welcome to our podcast.
It says 26 to life because after 26 years of friendship, we've been friends for longer than a life sentence. Although it's probably longer than 26 years now.
So from September it'll be 27,
Yeah.
but we're going to stick with 26. Okay, Rosie Posey is telling me a story today.
Yes. Yes, I am. So this story is about Jodi Jones. There is a lot of controversy around this case, around whether the right person was convicted or not. Many people believe that there has been a miscarriage of justice. So I'm basically going to share all of the information, and we need to try and be as unbiased as possible. At the end of the day, what we think isn't going to make a difference to the outcome of this case. There are still many people that are fighting for a change. They're fighting for a mistrial. They're fighting for a different outcome because many people are split on this case and whether or not the right person was convicted. And at the end of the day, I've listened to a few podcasts who got a lot of hate when they did their podcast episode on this particular case because so many people just either disagreed with their views or believed that they left some stuff out. And at the end of the day, they were just telling a story. That's all we can do. We're not going to be the ones that change what has happened. We're not going to be the ones that change the law, but we can give our opinions. And I just want to make that clear to everyone who's listening that these are just our opinions. This is just how we have understood the story, and this is how I'm going to tell it today. So please don't bring the hate. We are always open for discussions and feedback,
Jesus, I'm nervous now.
but please, we're just two sweet,
Idiots.
kind idiots that want to, bring awareness to different true crime in the UK.
Okay, so we are presenting facts. We are not giving
Yeah,
opinions.
not giving opinions. There are no, well, no, we can give our opinions, but that is exactly what they are. They are opinions. At the end of the day, we are not the people that committed this crime. We are not the people who put this person in prison. We are just the people that are telling the story and
I'm not
sharing
telling the
our
story.
opinions. You're not telling the
You're telling the
story.
story.
You're just absorbing the story.
I'm
Um,
literally.
so yeah,
You're the
please don't
problem.
come for us. And I like
Her.
what snake?
Sorry.
So,
People online are
Jodi,
mean.
yeah, a little bit. So, Jodi Jones was a 14-year-old girl who lived in East Houses, Midlothian. It's not far from Edinburgh in Scotland. She was seen as like a goth slash emo, but which I think around that time had a bit of a weird stereotype around them because you go to places like Camden in London and it's all just like dark and thick eyeliner and dark hair and pale skin and all of the rest of it. But in all of the pictures of her that I found, she was happy and smiling and laughing, and she just looked like a sweet, fun, typical teenager.
Sorry, can I
She
just say Camden's not like that now?
is it not?
No.
It's not been in many years. Is
Yeah,
that
you're
not?
thinking about from when you were like 15.
And that was like the
Pretty much goth girl era.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, mid
Oh, it's not.
2000s.
What is it trendy now?
Well, it's just there's such like a diverse variety of people in
Fun.
areas like that. Yeah,
I should go back there.
yeah. I was quite
Mhm.
surprised when you said that because I was like, I haven't been to Camden in years. But
It's
what
not
you're
that fun.
describing is very 2000s.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So that's this was
When
all
was
set in
this?
like 2003. So that's about, yeah, that checks out. That checks out. She was described as a good student, sometimes shy, but she was good-natured and intelligent. She loved music and was a big fan of Nirvana, which I think is also a one of those.
2000s. Do you
Mm.
remember the Nirvana t-shirt that everyone had? It was
Yeah,
like the
and then
big smiley
people,
face.
yeah, and then people would be like, "Do you even listen to Nirvana? Name me three songs."
No
I'm like,
idea. Don't have
it's
a
just
t-shirt. Don't listen.
no. But some people, but I think it was like that. Even if you had like a Guns N' Roses t-shirt or an AC/DC, everyone would be like, "Name three songs." How can you wear
Never
a
had.
band t-shirt?
If the only t-shirt I would have owned if they'd had it would have been Westlife, and they didn't. So, of
I do have a Robbie Williams t-shirt now. So
course you do.
in June 2003, she had been dating her boyfriend Luke Mitchell for 4 months, and she wrote in her diary that she loved him, like really loved him. Luke was also 14 years old, and they went to the same Catholic school as each other. Luke lived in a place called Newbattle, which was linked with East Houses by a path, locally known as Rowan Dyke Path, and it was a shortcut. So, usually, if you were to walk that way any other time, it would take about 45 minutes. But if you took this shortcut, it took it down to 15. So, I guess it was just a very direct
It's
route,
a
because
great
otherwise you'd
shortcut.
have to probably walk like
Yeah,
round
yeah,
and
yeah.
back in and like on all the streets and stuff. So it was a, yeah, crazy good shortcut. But both Luke and Jodi frequently used this shortcut to get to each other's houses, and there was a spot along this path that teenagers would hang out at, and Luke and Jodi would often meet. Luke was depicted as a rebellious teenager. It was told that he was a drug dealer and would often carry a knife when dealing marijuana. It's the hard stuff, you know. Whew. He would scribble
I know, but
satanic.
that's not just rebellious. The knife to me is crossing the line.
Yeah, no, 14 years old that with a knife, it's
That's a
yeah,
bit, yeah,
completely unacceptable. Listening to all of the like your story of the knife crime and everything that Idris Elba is doing to like bring awareness to it, and all of the deaths, like some of the stats that you went through on that case, it's completely unacceptable to be carrying a
yeah.
knife. Like, and as a 14-year-old dealing drugs, like, come on.
And
That
they're not in like a massive city, are they? Where there's going to
no,
be loads of dangerous. I'm
no.
carrying it for protection.
Oh, definitely not. No, no, definitely not. He would scribble satanic doodles over his school books and apparently even carved 666 into his arm with a knife.
Oh,
Um, I mean,
into his arm.
yeah,
Ew.
yeah. He would put out cigarettes on his skin, and he even had a tattoo on his arm, which he got at the age of 12 or 13. But basically, his mum had taken him to the shop himself and told them that he was 18. So at 12, he's getting a tattoo because his mum said, "Yeah, fine." Um, I feel like
That
this is
mother
all
is
the kind.
problematic.
Yeah, we'll come to that, I think. So, I think that this is probably worse because he was obviously dating the victim, and so people like the story behind Luke has probably been made worse than it actually is, just because you kind of take all these things. There are probably lots of kids that are 14 years old that, you know, carrying a knife or doodling satanic markings all over their school books, etc. But and there probably are a lot of troubled teens, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are
No, I
dangerous. It's
agree.
obviously just taking everything with a pinch of salt because it's
But the
media.
satanic stuff is one thing because actually Satanists aren't into like murder and killing and all of that kind of stuff. That is
Mm.
a massive misconception. However, to me, carving things into your skin, putting cigarettes out on your skin,
Yeah.
and your mum allowing you or actually encouraging and lying for you and taking you
Mm,
to a tattoo shop to get a tattoo, which you also know is dodgy because no actual legit place is going to take
yeah.
your mum's word for it. So
Yeah.
there's two separate things going on here. There's
Mm.
screams of serious mental health.
Like, I need help.
Yeah.
So on the 30th of June in 2003, Jodi was grounded because her mum found out that she had smoked weed. Two different, very different types of mums here. But she begged her mum to unground her so that she could go and see her boyfriend. Her mum eventually allowed it as long as she was home by 10 p.m. 10 p.m. at 14? I don't know.
Mm.
I was, yeah, that's you.
Mm.
I was probably in bed by 8 o'clock when I was 14.
I think it depends on the circumstances, what you're doing, where you're going, who
Where
you're
you're
with.
going. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean,
If
I would say 10 p.m. if like your mum was dropping me home. But if I was just out and about meeting my boyfriend, especially
mm,
along this path that they mentioned, because it was just a path. I don't know if I would have I don't know if I would have been allowed if I was just
I
out on the
know, but
street.
if they said to me, I'm going out to walk around, no.
Mm,
If it's like I'm going to X person's house and it takes 15 minutes to walk back, I'm leaving there at 9:45, I might have been
yeah.
like, okay. If it's we're going to go and hang out on a path outside, then
No.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know. I just think there's a whole host, but then also teenagers,
Teenagers,
difficult.
they do what they want.
Exactly.
So
How I am
Jodi
going to raise my child is very different to what I maybe I don't want to say allowed to do, but what I did.
mm, yeah, and it's probably definitely very different to what you preach on here as well, because you'll be
Oh,
so
100%.
much more strict when it comes to him.
I look back at situations now and I think, oh, I was unsafe.
Mm,
I was very
yeah.
lucky that nothing happened, but I was unsafe. I get that teenagers are going to want to do it and you feel like you're invincible. And I think that is my biggest fear for young people is that you think you're invincible. And I know that I thought I was invincible. And I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, when I was working in restaurants and stuff at 16, I would get the bus home in the area that we lived in
Mm,
at like 11:30, 12 o'clock on a Friday night. And I was
yeah.
16.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even do that now.
No. No. Yeah.
But I
No,
just didn't
definitely not.
think anything of it. Had my
Yeah.
headphones in, didn't care.
Yeah, wasn't even aware of your surroundings
Yeah.
particularly.
I
Yeah,
am
no, I totally get
so
that.
surprised I survived.
Well, yeah. Yeah, me too, to be honest with you.
What on
Yeah.
earth?
So Jodie set off on the mile-and-a-half walk to Luke's house and she left at around 5 p.m. So when Jodie didn't arrive home at 10 p.m., her mum called Luke to find out where she was. And Luke said that she never made it to his and he hadn't seen her all night. So panicking a little, she called around the rest of her friends and Jodie's sister, who was living at their grandmother's house. And when none of them had seen or heard from Jodie, she called the police at around 11 p.m. to report her missing
Sorry,
and
what
set
time had
out
she
looking for her.
left?
She'd left at 5.
So she's technically been missing for like 6 hours by the time she calls the police, even though
Yeah.
she doesn't know that. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So she called the police at around 11 p.m. to report her missing and set out looking for her. Jodie had lots of family in the area, so they all went out looking for Jodie. Jodie's sister, Janine, joined the search along with her boyfriend, Stephen, and grandmother, Alice. They met up with Luke, and who was also joined with his dog, a German Shepherd who had actually been scent trained. And I don't know if this was scent trained as in like ex-police dog or if it was scent trained as in like you can take your dog to do different classes, as like enrichment things. But it never explicitly said. It just said that he was scent trained, and that kind of is a little bit important in the stories. They started along the Rowan-Dyke path because they knew that that was where Jodie most likely would have walked. It wasn't well lit, so that was the first problem. They all had flashlights. There weren't streetlights all the way down this path or anything like that, so they all had flashlights, and they were basically just kind of like,
Torches.
yeah, torches. We don't call them flashlights?
That's American.
Huh. Who knew?
All
But
non-American people. Well, that's not true. English people.
yeah, I guess. I guess so.
Do you know why it annoys me? Because children watch too much YouTube and they pick up American words, and I'm like, no.
See, I don't YouTube. I definitely don't watch any YouTube.
Are you
But
sure?
I think it's just because where I lived in Costa Rica,
Oh, yeah.
I definitely picked up some of that. I still don't know which one English people use, whether it's pants or underwear.
Pants can be both.
Oh.
Like pants or underwear is the same thing. We don't use pants for trousers.
We
So,
don't use pants for trousers.
no.
Okay. So they started along Roanoke Path, and at one point, the dog started acting strangely and pulled Luke through a small gap in a brick wall. Now, this is very important because at the time, everyone confirmed, even Jodi's family who were there with him, that it was the dog that went through the brick wall, not, it wasn't just Luke decided
And
to
is
go through
that
this hole.
like, so the dog's scent trained? To me, scent training is getting an item of your clothing. Sorry, I've got my eye mask here. Getting the dog to smell it,
Mm.
and then the dog goes after it. So is the dog picking up on something because there's this like an anomaly of a smell, or is it that they've given him Jodie's t-shirt? We don't know.
I honestly, I don't know.
We just
It doesn't
know that the
specify.
dog is something's got the dog's attention through
Yeah,
over
that
this wall, through this
that
wall.
it has had some form of scent training, and there was something that took it through this hole in the brick wall. So when Luke emerged from the other side, he said there was something there, but he didn't know what it was because obviously darkness. Eventually, Stephen and the grandmother also went through the gap in the wall, and that's when they discovered a body. Luke called the police. They were quickly on the scene. It was a gruesome and violent scene. Jodi was naked and had her wrists bound behind her back. She had suffered from trauma to her skull. She had been stabbed multiple times, and there was evidence of major compression to her neck, which indicated that she had been choked. Her breasts, face, and abdomen had all been slashed, many of which would later be confirmed to have been inflicted after she had died.
So there's stab wounds and there's slash wounds.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like murdering and then disfiguring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also important to note that Jodi, despite being naked, was not sexually assaulted, but she suffers 320 injuries of varying types and severity.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. Now, there are some big flaws in this investigation from the start. And the first is that Jodi's body was left uncovered and exposed to the elements for 8 hours after it was discovered.
So we're in Scotland. What month are we in?
June 2003.
Okay, so Scotland, you
It
never know
rains
the
all
weather.
year
It could be
round.
the rain, it could be bugs, it could be anything, but it takes nothing
Yeah,
to stick a tent up.
exactly. And surely that should be pretty standard to put a tent up, cover a tarp or anything.
So
But
I've just
also
been
to
listening.
respect her body as well, like to
Yeah, but
respect her
I've just been
remains.
listening to a lot on the Karen Reid trial that's just finished in America. If you don't know the case, a police officer was found dead. His girlfriend was believed to have hit him with the car and then driven off. She was found not guilty. But the police
Spoiler alert.
officer was found on the driveway of another police officer, and when the police arrived to do the investigation, they failed to put up any form of like protection, even though it was during a snowstorm. So they lost all of the evidence, essentially. Maybe
Yeah.
not, but it's compromised, right? You've got the snow plows going by, blah, 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 blah. And there was an interview with a detective, and he literally said, first thing you do is preserve the scene. You know,
Yeah.
if you need to investigate it, you put up a tent to preserve the scene. And that's in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do. Like, if you can protect and preserve the scene in a snowstorm, you can sure as heck do it in the rain in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. But
Sorry,
for
that was my
8
tangent.
hours. No, that was
It just reminded me of
accurate.
that. Just
Yeah.
like an experienced detective, the first thing they've said is, oh, I can see that
Cover
this
it.
body and this crime scene is going to be affected by the weather. Quickly, let's protect it.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And the thing is that, yeah, it's not just about protecting, obviously, the DNA evidence and any evidence in general is so important. But that poor girl who's been so gruesomely murdered is just laying there uncovered in the woods. Like, that breaks my heart. Like, just give her a little bit of dignity and cover her and protect her, you know? That's not nice. So
My thing is it gives every opportunity for the killer to be like for them to declare a mistrial.
Yeah.
Because let's say, because everything can be contaminated, and let's say at this point we already have 3 people and a dog who have been close to the body after the
Exactly.
fact, before all of then the emergency services get there, how easy is it for then a defence team to turn around and say, well, of course their DNA, I don't know what's going to happen, but of
Yeah, of
course
course their
X
DNA is
person's
there.
DNA,
Mm.
or, you know, that dog walker's DNA was there because they walked their dog at 5 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah,
Any
exactly.
of those things that can compromise a case.
Yeah.
So it's not just a short-term thing that's going to make the case harder to solve. If you do find out who's done it, you also run the risk of them getting away with it.
I mean, lawyers are, I mean, that's literally their job, is you don't want to give them any reason to be able to, for a murderer to be
But
able to get
also,
off.
a person needs a fair trial.
Mm.
If a site has been compromised, then that is a way that they're not going to be given a fair trial. Like, you know,
Mhm.
everyone deserves a defense lawyer, even the worst
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time it's to protect the case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Silly, 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 silly.
Yeah, so there were a lot of
I've been
things that
getting
went
my law
wrong.
degree while we've been taking a break. Did
Yeah,
anyone know?
obviously. It's clear. But that's the thing, is that with so much going on, this is why I came back to at the start, is that it was very controversial, and because so much has gone wrong, and there were some big flaws in the investigation, that it obviously has made a big difference to who was
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know
who
what's going to
was
happen.
what's the word? Who was convicted.
Convicted.
Exactly.
Not a
So
lawyer, are you?
no, I've not been getting my law degree. So it rained overnight, and so uncovered for 8 hours overnight. Vital DNA evidence could have been washed away, footprints would have been muddied, and the whole scene would essentially have been compromised, just as you said. Her body and items around the body had been moved before the forensic team started work, which, like, why? Surely that's rule number
By
2.
who? The police.
If rule, yeah. And even when get this, even when the first forensic scientists did arrive, 8 hours after Jodi's body had been discovered, they couldn't examine the body because they had a bad back and couldn't make their way over the wall.
Sorry, why 8 hours?
Apparently they don't do call outs in the middle of the night. They just, he got there at like 7 in the morning. I don't know.
In 8 hours, you could have flown someone in from like Manchester,
Yeah.
London,
Yeah, literally
Costa
anywhere.
Rica.
Anywhere.
I don't actually know how long the flight is to Costa Rica.
However, despite all of this, at the trial, as we will cover, the Detective Chief Superintendent Craig Dobby, don't know whether we like him or not because I really like Dobby, but described the crime scene as one of the finest I have ever seen. He said that every care was taken to recover every single piece of evidence that was there, which may be true. It could be every single piece of evidence that was left after the scene was rained on, you know? Like,
it was still there.
that
We
was,
got
yeah,
everything that was still there.
Exactly. Despite this, the coroner estimated that Jodi died sometime between 5 p.m. and 5:45 p.m. So if we know that
wow.
she left her house at 5 p.m., she didn't make it very far before she was murdered. So in addition
So
to all
it's
of these,
longer than that then. So it's the 8 hours that for it
yeah,
takes someone to arrive. Plus what is it? They called the police at 11. They go out
mhm.
searching. So that's, I'm
Yeah,
not
it could
good
have
at maths,
really
but this
been
is
like
like
closer to
12
12
hours
hours.
plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So in addition to all of those flaws, all of the local bins were emptied before the police were able to search them, which means that even more evidence that could have been dumped and taken away was taken away forever, including the murder weapon, which to this day has never ever been found. So
what were they looking
once,
for? A knife? She was just,
yes,
not
it
just,
would
but
have
she
been,
was stabbed, wasn't it?
yeah,
Stabbed
so
and
they would have been
slashed.
looking
So
for a knife. Yes. Exactly. And I mean, once the bins get taken away to a landfill, you're never going to find anything. You know,
mm-mm.
you're never ever going to recover that because landfills are endless
Vast,
pits.
absolutely massive. But
Yeah.
surely if it's like you've collected the bins and you know that within, let's say, 3 hours, that bin truck is not making it to a landfill by then. Do you know what I mean? Like, bin trucks do
Do
entire areas.
yeah.
I'm just thinking it seems like there was it wasn't just a, oh my God, we missed them by 10 minutes. This seems to be a lot
Yeah.
of poor
No, you're totally right.
communication and a lot of poor,
Yeah.
you
Management,
know, poor
organization,
management. Yeah.
everything. Everything.
We've seen that in a
Yeah.
case before where they didn't stop the bin trucks from going down the roads
Yeah. Yeah.
with the
Exactly.
Noah Donahue case.
I don't know. A young girl has been found murdered. My immediate reaction would be to stop everything, Stop everything. Stop traffic. Stop the bin
I
men.
stand by the idea
Yeah.
of the Simpsons movie.
Luke Mitchell, Janine Jones, Janine's boyfriend, Stephen Kelly, and their grandmother, Alice, were all taken to the police station. And this is where things start getting a little bit more controversial. Of course, some reports will say some things while others have a different angle. And so it's hard to know exactly what is true because obviously newspapers and reports will basically pick a side, That's what
Not
sells
Jodie's mum.
newspapers.
Jodie's mum's not taken to the police station.
No, because she wasn't there when they found the body. It was just those four that were in that little group with the dog that were there when the body was found.
And was she like searching somewhere else?
Yeah, she was out looking all
Okay.
over. So if you remember, I said that Jodie had lots of family in the area. So there were
So they've all
loads of
split up.
people were out. Exactly. But those four in particular were the ones that were along the path and found Jodie's body. Yeah, so like I said, newspapers pick a side because that's what sells newspapers. One thing that was reported on a lot was the fact that Luke was questioned multiple times without a lawyer present, and the police insist that he was purely a witness at this point. Not only had he found Jodie's body, but he was, of course, her boyfriend and one of the last people to have spoken to her. So he was a key person in their investigation, no matter which way you look at it. So even if they were...
And she was heading to him.
And she was heading to him as well.
He was the one who knew that she was like
He
taking that
was
path.
always going to be in the center of this.
Yeah.
Luke's mother, Corinne, and his brother, Shane, confirmed that he was at home on the night of the 30th, something that will also later come up in court. But soon the media were attacking Luke's character and painting him as a disturbed child with a tendency for violence. He was portrayed as someone who was obsessed with Marilyn Manson, which wouldn't have been out of the ordinary for a goth teen in the noughties. But they spoke of how he carried wives, how he carried knives, worshipped the devil, and again, as a rebellious goth teen that went to a Catholic school, this could just easily be a boy that's acting out. But of course, it made for a great story for the tabloids.
And how do you rebel against like going to a Catholic school and stuff? You go against everything that they say you shouldn't be doing. Having a girlfriend, like as in premarital sex is what I'm getting at there. And then, worshipping things like the devil or Satanism, that kind of stuff. You rebel against, if your parents push sports at you, go and be a dancer or an artist. Rebelling against something is going. And so, yeah, I can imagine.
You were a vegetarian for your entire life until you rebelled and had a bacon sandwich.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. So over the coming months, Luke is detained and questioned multiple times, but released every single time because he isn't named as a suspect. The tabloids are allowed to name and shame him because of this. So obviously, newspapers are allowed to report on him because he's not named as a suspect. It's only when they're named as a suspect and underage that they're not allowed to name him. Is
there a reason that they didn't have a lawyer?
I think that he did have a lawyer eventually, but because they didn't name him as a suspect, they didn't think that they needed a lawyer. They just thought that he was being questioned.
Cautionary tale.
Exactly.
Always get a lawyer.
Always get a lawyer. The family asked Luke not to attend Jodie's funeral at the start of September because they were worried about the media frenzy that would occur if he were there. But this also happened to be the day that Luke and his mother had their first media interview, where he was asked if he had killed his girlfriend. And that seems a little bit insensitive because obviously Jodie's funeral would have been planned quite far in advance. And you'd think that...
Why was he having a media interview anyway?
Exactly. It seems a bit insensitive. But later, Luke's mother, Corinne, said that this is something she still deeply regrets and they feel like they were manipulated by the press. So I can understand that. I
also think, right, this is two sides because I'm looking at it from Jodie's family side.
Mm-hmm.
how dare you do that?
Yeah.
From the parent of a child, we need to get ahead. You know, when you're in a situation where you're like, I need to fix this, I need to fix this, I need to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
The media is painting my child out as being a bad person and as
Yeah.
having done something. I need to get ahead of this. I need to
If
stand in
this
front
is
of
the
them
opportunity they're giving me, I need to take it.
100%.
Yeah.
The press are going to want you to look bad because
Yeah.
it's so much more lucrative from that for them
Yeah.
financially, and you know, it's
100%.
clickbaity, isn't it? But
Mm-hmm.
I can see it from both sides. I think in this situation, you've got a mother protecting their child. I'm not saying I agree with everything that they've done. I definitely don't.
Mm-hmm.
You've equally got a
A mother
family who
that's
wants to put their
grieving.
child to rest.
Yeah.
Then my question would be, did the family think that he had done it?
My next sentence is finally on April 14th in 2004. So that was it's almost a year. It was in June that that she was murdered. Luke Mitchell is arrested and charged for the murder of Jodi Jones.
But before that, did Jodi's family think that he had done it, or we don't really know?
We don't really know. I think that they were.
My thinking is if they don't think he's done it,
Mm,
I think there would be a better way to deal with him attending the funeral, because as far as you're concerned, if you don't think he's done it, this is a 14-year-old who's been through something horrifically traumatic,
mm,
and surely there is a better way to control the press than just saying to him he can't come and say goodbye to his girlfriend.
I get that, but I think that when you're going through such a traumatic event, it is
Mm.
hard. It's hard to be thinking of other
Oh
people.
no, please don't. Like,
Yeah. Like
who am I? Like, I couldn't even.
who am I?
Who am I? Like, let's be honest, I wouldn't be able to wipe my own arse in this situation.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of it from all sides.
Yeah.
That could
Yeah.
also heavily impact him. It
Yeah. Oh,
also
of
could
course.
worsen his image. You know,
Hmm.
if we're looking at it from the press's point of view, they could be
Yeah.
like, oh, well, even the family thinks you're guilty because they didn't invite you to the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's more to it. And I
Mm,
also think the press can be really problematic. I know they
yeah.
can be great for things, but in this situation, it sounds like they're being really problematic.
Yeah. They were really just pitting them against each other. And at the end of the
And
day,
was there
he
ever
was.
another suspect? Or was there ever kind of like,
We
it could
will
have
go
been a
through that.
random
Yeah, it does.
person? Okay.
We do have some of that. But at the end of the day, we do have to remember that this was still a 14-year-old boy. Either way,
Yeah.
he was still being slandered by the press. He was still being made an outcast by Jodie's family. And like you said, it was still a young boy that wasn't able to say goodbye to his girlfriend. So
And have they honed in on someone from the start because he's rebellious and troubled and therefore
exactly.
not looked at any other avenues?
Exactly. See, that is the thing. So this is where we're already seeing both sides of why this is so controversial. So not only was Luke Mitchell arrested and charged for the murder of Jodi Jones, but Corinne and Shane Mitchell, Luke's mum and brother, were also arrested for perverting the course of justice.
What?
So
Because of they're saying they lied about the alibi or what?
yeah, basically.
Okay.
Originally, the trial goes ahead on the 11th of November. However, it has to be abandoned when they discover that a juror has an undisclosed connection to Luke Mitchell, and so they restart on the 18th of November with a new jury. The jury hears how, upon searching Luke's room, they found numerous bottles filled with his urine, as well as artwork depicting the Black Dahlia murder by Marilyn Manson, as well as a knife sheath that had been carved with 666 JJ and the dates of Jodi's birth and death. The bottles of urine were originally used as even more ammo against Luke as a human being, but I later heard that he only began bottling his urine after Jodi's death because he was so heavily sedated and obviously suffering with severe mental health problems. It also turns out that the Marilyn Manson artwork that everyone fixated on, because I don't do you, you must know the Black Dahlia murder, right?
I know of it, yeah.
It's basically a
I don't know
really
what they mean by the artwork.
so Marilyn Manson came out with this like really gruesome piece of art that was around the Black Dahlia murder. But it turns out that this artwork actually came as a freebie with a CD that he had purchased, and that was also a few days after Jodi's murder. So again, this is all skewed
Circumstantial, but
against him.
also the fact is that it's clearly popular enough that one, Marilyn Manson is making money off of it, and two,
Hmm.
it's being handed out as a freebie in a CD. Even if that's not where he got it, if that's what then clearly it's popular enough. So
Yeah,
is that then the implication that everybody who buys that, or everybody who's interested in this person or that
yeah,
style of music, etc., is a murderer or a potential murderer, or is somebody who has kind of violent or murderous tendencies? That to me sounds very broad sweeping, because it's not a
yeah,
one-off. This is saying that there is an entire consumer group that would be
yeah.
interested in owning those things.
Hmm.
And that to me
Yeah.
is problematic, that they would
It,
then paint everyone like that with the brush.
yeah, exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. So the knife, however, has various stories behind it. So obviously it was just the knife sheath, and it was engraved with 666 JJ with Jodi's birthday and the date of her death. Some have reported that he engraved the sheath after Jodi's death as a tribute. However, others believe that this missing knife is the one that was used to murder Jodi, but neither have ever been proven. In terms of DNA evidence, Luke's DNA was found on Jodi's bra and on her body, but they were in a relationship, so this doesn't mean much. But they also didn't find anyone else's DNA, which could indicate that anyone else was present at the scene. However, so much could have been washed away. It could be that there was other
Mm.
DNA there, but it
But
was
also
compromised.
the knife sheath, was
Mm.
there ever kind of like, so a knife sheath holds the same shape as the knife that it contains, right?
I
Do you
mean,
see where I'm going with that?
yes, but I don't think that would be accurate enough to be
I
able
don't think
to
it would be accurate enough, but I definitely think that there
but
would be
get an
able to
idea of
say,
it.
like, okay, this knife sheath is for a pen knife, or like,
Yeah,
a tiny little thing, and
but
she's
these
been killed
stab
with something.
wounds,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just think that, again, it's way too circumstantial without
Yeah.
enough kind of.
Mhm. I think we're
I
really
get it.
spoiled by like CSI in these kinds of things
No, I'm
because
just
you know
saying,
that they
like,
would be like taking the impression from inside the knife sheath and making this whole like
I
3D
suppose I was
printed
more just
version.
thinking, like, unless they are so, so similar, there's got
Mm,
to be, you can't just say, oh, he had a knife sheath and therefore the knife could have been.
yeah.
You would be able to say, okay, well, the knife sheath holds a 5 centimeter blade, and the wounds that have been made by a 10 centimeter blade. If it's like
Mm,
5 and 5.2, okay, I understand. But I definitely
yeah.
think there would be a way to kind of look at that and say,
Yeah.
closer or further away from it being
Yeah.
relevant.
Yeah. No, I
I
completely
did not
agree.
explain that well, but you
No,
know what I mean.
yeah, I totally get it because obviously if it was a tiny knife, if it was like a small knife that was like so however big, but the wounds were made by like a knife that was obviously like a sword, then you know
Yeah.
that it's not going to fit into that sheath, and so you
Yeah.
know that that's irrelevant. Um, so yeah, no, I totally get that. So aside from the DNA evidence, so obviously there wasn't that much there aside from Luke's DNA on her bra and body. But obviously, like I said, they were in a relationship, but also he was the one that found her. So I mean, that could easily be explained. A used condom was found near the scene, but the man who this belonged to was cleared of any connection to the crime, and we didn't hear anything about that. I think that that's because it was kind of like we said, that teenagers did hang around along that path, that maybe it was a place that people would go dogging or go for a sneaky sex because they weren't allowed to have sex at home. I don't know. It was like where teenagers got up to no
So
good.
when you
So
say this was a man, do we actually know if it was a man, or it could well have been like a 14-year-old boy that they're covering their identity?
again, it never
Okay, so
never ever
it could
said.
be either,
Yeah.
but they're
Yeah.
cleared of any kind of responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. There was
Okay.
like he was never named because he was never a suspect. So, however, if Luke was the one to kill Jodi, he would have been covered in blood. It was such a violent attack that there is no way he could have left that scene without any evidence on him, be it on his clothes, his shoes, under his nails. And Jodi had clearly put up a fight, so he would have visible scratches and marks on him. But there was absolutely nothing. Although one thing that is queried a lot was a particular Parker jacket. So, do you know what a Parker jacket is?
Like a puffer, but a light puffer.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is that
basically.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Kind of a
So,
bit waterproofy.
yeah, exactly. Like kind of like a lightweight kind of jacket type thing. So lots of people confirm that he had a Parker jacket and that he always wore it and that he was even sighted wearing it on the day of the murder. But after the murder, no Parker jacket was ever found. And his mum actually bought him a new Parker jacket and she said that he had never had one before, even though there had been other people that had sighted him wearing it and could confirm that he definitely wore one all the time before the murder. So that was something that also came up. What's more, on the same night of Jodi's murder, Luke had like this furnace thing in his garden, and it was used twice that night. And although no evidence could be found within the ashes, because obviously it was burnt to shit, his neighbors confirmed that
Is that the
Luke.
scientific term? Burnt to shit?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, right, cool.
Yeah, I have that in my notes right here.
From the medical books? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
His neighbors confirmed that Luke and his family were burning things on the night of the murder. So could this have been clothing? Could this have been the Parker jacket that he was trying to cover up? Would he have had time to murder Jodi, to get home, clean himself up, burn all of his clothes, and get out again to meet Jodi's family to search for her? And if so, his mum must surely have been lying and would have had to help him. So this brings us back to Luke's alibi. Shane, his brother, had originally said that Luke was home. Oh, this is awful. Shane had originally said that Luke was home all evening, but when questioned in court, he told how he was actually at home by himself, and he remembers this because he was watching porn on the computer and masturbating with the door open so that he could hear if anyone came home. And he wouldn't have been doing this if anyone else was at home.
Oh,
Gross.
Jesus. It's not even that. It's more just the fact that, like, you, of all the things,
Yeah.
of all the things.
But then at least you know that he's not lying.
I was
because what
cooking
teenage boy is gonna
sausages and I left the door open so that I could air it out so I didn't set off the smoke alarms.
literally
Say
anything.
that.
Yeah. That's
So is that
bad.
him saying then that his brother and his mum weren't home?
Yeah, so he also said that he and his family had discussed their story before speaking to the police to ensure that Luke had a solid alibi.
Okay, so I just need to say all of these things. All of this sounds dodgy. I get it. I completely and utterly get it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, due to massive mistakes made by the police,
Yeah.
they cannot go into a court and a decent defence lawyer would rip that apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not a crime to use your furnace.
No,
a Parker jacket.
It could just
as
be
a 14-year-old
coincidence.
boy, Leo's lost, I think, about 4 coats in the last year. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you are a parent whose child is going to be accused of someone going missing, would you be prepared to lie for them? A lot of parents would.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying one way or another where I think he did or I think he didn't. But I think if you look at what has to be proven in a court of law, which is beyond a reasonable doubt, there's more than enough reasonable doubt there. And unfortunately, that comes from the fact that any DNA from another person would be gone because let's say, for example, you get trace DNA from people you come into contact with all of the time.
Yeah.
Why that could have gone. But then things like on the clothes, when you spend a lot of time with somebody, the DNA is a lot more substantial. As well as that, it is very hard, I can only imagine, to get rid of any trace of anything. So let's say you burn the clothes, but when we're talking about things like blood, when did the police kind of do fingernail scrapings?
Yeah.
Did they not do that until he was arrested? Because if they didn't do that until he was arrested, he's had how long? Weeks to remove the blood? Months to have the blood removed?
Months.
Exactly.
Months. Yeah.
If it's a case of scratches. When did they look for scratches? Because if he was interviewed wearing a hoodie
Yeah.
and months later they look for the scratches, it
Yeah,
just
he could have been wearing scarves and polo shirts, you know, like it could have, yeah, he could have easily
he
long
doesn't
sleeve.
strike me as a scarf and polo shirt kind of guy. I think my
No,
hoodie
it
observation.
may have been more accurate, but okay, fine. Corinne denies all of this and she insists that she got home at 5:15 and Luke was there when she got home and he didn't go out again until about 6 p.m., which
Convenient,
is,
isn't it?
oh no, it's convenient that that's the exact time that her predicted time of death. But he went out about 6 p.m. to wait at the end of their road for Jodi to come through because he was expecting her. But she said that Jodi never showed up. So he came home, he took the dog out, and then he received the call from Jodi's mum that Jodi hadn't come home. So that's when he then went out again to help look for her. Another thing that came up, have you ever heard of the speaking clock?
Yeah.
So you
You call
basically
the
call
speaking clock.
and it will tell you what time it is.
Yeah.
But that was obviously, I think that was more common when you didn't have a mobile phone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you would call from the landline, it would tell you what the time is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So at
Oh my God,
16:54,
that's like when we used to have to check what time cinema times were. You used to call and Odeon would read out. It wasn't Odeon though at the time. It was something else.
Cineworld.
That has just unlocked such a memory because
I
my house
know.
phone used to be right here where I'm sitting.
Anyway, so at 16:54, Luke Mitchell made a call to the speaking clock from his mobile. When asked by police why he had called the service when presumably he was in his house, as his alibi claimed, and there would be other ways to find out the time, such as a clock on a wall, and he also made the call from his mobile
Which would have
that
had the time.
you would be able to see the time on. He said he couldn't answer as to why he made the call. But again, it
But
doesn't
what does he
really,
gain from making the call?
absolutely nothing. We
And
don't,
also, again, not that I'm swinging one way or another. I'm just thinking of all the plot hole twists, whatever they're called in this.
mm,
A phone now automatically updates according to your time zone.
yeah.
Early noughties, you set the time on your phone.
Mm,
So if your phone, I don't know, restarted, the battery came out and it all went back to 0000 like it
yeah.
used to,
Mm,
very easily he could have been living on random clock time for,
yeah, that
and then
is
he's
true.
like, oh, my girlfriend said she's coming round at
Mm,
5:15 or she's leaving her house at 5 to get here at 5:15. I should probably check the time.
yeah. See, and that's the thing is because if she, so that we said that Jodi left the house at 5, but
Like,
Luke's mum said that he was in the house from 5:15 till 6. But if Jodi had left the house at 5 and it takes 15 minutes for her to walk to his house,
and she wasn't
he
very far from her house.
and she wasn't far from her house, that she should have been at Luke's for 5:15, 5:30 latest. And even if she had gone the long way round and it had taken 45 minutes, she still would have been there before 6 o'clock. So why he left at 6 p.m. to go and meet her, that's a bit fishy to me. But
Unless it's kind of like, well, hold on. I know she's going to take the shortcut. It's June, it's 5 o'clock. She's not going to have an issue taking a dark alleyway shortcut, right?
yeah, because it's
So
bright, it's things, yeah.
she said she was leaving at 5.
Oh
So
yeah,
she'd
it's
be
bright.
here by 5:15. Right now it's
Mm-hmm.
5:30. I'm slightly concerned. Let me walk along this path to go and make sure she's okay or whatever.
But she didn't. That's not what happened.
But do you see my point? Like that could
Yeah.
be his reasoning for doing it. I'm just saying at the minute everything is explainable.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, for sure. Yeah. So there is also phone records to show that Luke called Jodi's home phone at around 5:40, spoke to her mother, and he asked where Jodi was. And then it was 10 minutes later, he calls a friend and arranges to meet up with them.
Okay, so there could be two parts to that. So firstly, this murder time is really broken up by all the phone calls. So if he was really busy killing someone and then cleaning it up, why is he making so many phone calls? But the second thing is if you've called Jodi's mum and she's like, yeah, she'll be there with you in the next 5-10 minutes, and then you're
Is
like,
he
wow,
covering himself up?
yeah, now you're organising with a friend, surely you'd be a bit confused. Well, her mum says she's left and she's on her way here.
Yeah.
He's not going to think, oh, she's just ditched me and she isn't coming.
No.
why would you then organise to meet up with a friend? But then we don't have enough information on it, because is it like, hey, Jodie's on her way over. When she gets here, do you guys want to all do something, or should we all do this together, or should we do that? Who knows?
Yeah. See, lawyer.
Private investigator, lawyer.
There, what? So basically, Luke is saying that he never saw Jodi. She never made it to his house, and he was meeting up with another friend. So, however, there was another eyewitness, and they said that she spotted a boy and a girl walking together near Rowan Dyke Path, and even identified Luke in some pictures provided by the police at the time. However, she couldn't identify Luke in court a year and a half later. And many people believe that the police did not follow correct protocol when they originally asked her to identify him. Apparently, they provided multiple pictures of different men in different settings. However, Luke's picture was the only one that was clearly a mugshot, which it's kind of like psychologically, if you're identifying somebody who is wanted for a crime, you would probably go for the one that's a mugshot.
Yeah, isn't the whole point that they're all
exactly
quite uniform?
Exactly. And they also did not put Luke Mitchell on an ID parade, which is also common practice for identifying suspects. However, of course, a year and a half later, Luke would have been 16 and look very differently to how he did when he was 14. So this is probably why he couldn't be identified in court, because...
Yeah, and also if when he was 14 and he kind of had this goth emo vibe going on, and then a year and a half later he's in court for the murder of his girlfriend, surely now they've been like, take the eye makeup off and wear a shirt. I don't know, but I'm just saying that would be a potential. And a year and a half later, Jesus, come on. You see somebody once for 30 seconds and then a year and a half later they're like, is that him? I'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, and yeah, exactly, because it's not someone that you just... It's not
like me identifying you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not someone that you've known for years.
Of course it is. Look at her.
Yeah. Exactly. So something else that came up in trial when Jodi's family were questioned was, so do you remember that I said that when they found Jodi's body, they had all said at first that it was the dog that had alerted them? Well, they changed their story and they said that it wasn't the dog at all, and it was actually Luke that went and found the body, and the dog wasn't the one that showed them.
So what was their reasoning for getting it wrong?
I honestly, they didn't even... I didn't read anything.
Because they've got no reason to protect him, right? Your child is dead, or your sister or your sister-in-law or whatever, she's dead. You have said what you've seen, and now you're changing it. I would understand if it was like, oh, we were protecting him in the first place because we didn't think he'd done it. But that sounds to me like your impression of him has potentially been tainted based on everything that's gone on. Again, not sure which way I think, but I just am seeing both sides.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. I agree. It's
questionable.
Like you said, it's like like I said at the start, it's all very controversial. So
I need to know what the outcome is now.
So they obviously turned this and said this was an act of a guilty person who knew exactly where to find her.
Sorry, you've not said anything about what's the prosecution said about motive.
Just essentially that he loved
death.
Dahlia, Black Dahlia, Marilyn Manson, satanic, all of that.
But you would assume that, but there was no talk of like he was killing animals to start with, or he was like violent or had beaten up this person. There wasn't like huge amounts of that. It was all to do with he wore black makeup and he liked a Black Dahlia painting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right, cool.
Pretty much. But if this was an act of a guilty person and he just knew where to find her body, why would he just show everyone and lead them directly to her body? Like, surely you would try and
just leave it.
Leave it, exactly, for as long as possible. You wouldn't want people to find it. Or was it to place himself there so that if there was any DNA evidence, footprints, etc., then that could have explained it because he was there at the scene of the crime? But is a 14-year-old boy really clever enough to think about these things, you know? So after all of that, Luke was found guilty and he was sentenced to serve a minimum of 20 years in prison before he could be considered for parole. He was also found guilty of supplying cannabis, but that was
Oh, such a nothing burger.
such an yeah, that was so unimportant. But because so many people believed that Luke was wrongly convicted, a GoFundMe was started in support of Luke. Luke appealed numerous times. Lawyers claimed that the boy at the scene, this eyewitness account, was just a lookalike. Many people believe that the real culprit was a boy who had handed in an essay a few weeks before Jodi's murder about killing a girl in the woods. A friend of that particular suspect even said that he has scratches on his face after the murder took place, but he was never named. No one was ever, it was never spoken about him being brought in for questioning or anything like that. Since then, they've obviously done loads of TV shows and documentaries and podcasts and everything like that. And since then, they've said that they have found DNA, which was a mix of like 3 different people potentially. One of those people, they couldn't say that it wasn't Luke's DNA, if that makes sense. They couldn't say for sure that it was, but then they also couldn't remove it as a possibility completely. But then they also said that they found a complete profile of Jodi's sister's boyfriend, Stephen Kelly, but he was also there at the scene and when she was found. So could that have explained that?
The fact of the matter is the police are focusing on circumstantial evidence because they failed to protect.
Literally, it was like a tunnel vision of this teenage boy loves Satan. He loves like.
But they're also trying to make up for the fact that they made a huge amount of mistakes.
Yeah.
They're trying to make up for the fact that they didn't preserve the scene correctly and then didn't question all of the relevant people. I can't say whether or not I think he's innocent or guilty, but I don't know how a jury convicted him, if I'm honest.
He may be guilty, but in court, I feel like there wasn't enough. So whether or not he was, I don't think that there was enough to be able to say.
Interesting to hear from jurors who were on that case.
Yeah.
Like, how can you say guilty beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like maybe the prosecution just did a really good job of telling that story. But
so what are people angry about?
Well, the fact that all of the flaws that the same thing that you're questioning now is whether or not there was enough evidence, that people genuinely don't believe that Luke Mitchell did it. They believe that.
So what other podcasts saying like he was guilty and he did it? And people don't like that. What were people mad about online is my point.
People are mad about the fact that they don't think that they're telling a true story, like the full story. People think that people are feeding into the Luke Mitchell is murder story when they don't think that's true and they don't think that's fair because
I would not say that I am convinced either way. No, I would say that there are compelling cases both ways. I agree. Both ways. I'm saying that if you want to say he had no scratches on him and no DNA on him, okay, but that only applies if you are checking that within the first couple of hours, not if you bring him in for question, if you arrest him 18 months later. So is he out?
As far as I've last read, he's not. So in June 2023, because that was obviously 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Almost 20
years. But he's just eligible for parole after 20 years.
The Sun reported that in June 2023, he could have been released within the next 18 months, but he failed a prison drug test. So I don't know whether or not that would have.
Let's be honest.
His chances.
Being in prison since he was 14, he's going to have some serious issues.
That he's not going to be in a great place. And I feel like once you've been released, nobody's going to care about proving your innocence anymore because you're not in prison anymore, you know? So I feel like it's just going to die after that. And like he can keep on fighting to prove his innocence, to say like, I don't want this on my record. I want to say that this is the proof.
Yeah, to get it overturned. And the worry is not just the fact that somebody could be in prison wrongly. The worry is also the fact that there could be somebody out there who's just walking around.
Yeah, and he's got away with it. The whole case was basically just an attack on his personality, like bringing up the
Not even
things
his
about
personality, just like his vibe,
lifestyle,
demeanour.
vibe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it was fun. Nice to be back. I'll
It is nice to be
see you
back.
tomorrow for my one.
Yes. Okay, perfect.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.